Oh, I'm short a dinger tonight.
I know you're at your new.
I'm short a dinger.
You're at a different spot tonight.
I'm in a different spot. I chose not to do Adam's studio, which has the bell. Which why? But
So
you have a
you're in your
wheel in the back.
office. Yeah, you got the
Yeah.
wheel. So you're in your office. Nice.
I'm in my office, which is kind of fun tonight. Guys, welcome to Anchor Watch, our late night below deck chat, where we take over Adam's channel to recap the number one rated show on Bravo, Below Deck, which is probably not true right now with all of the Vanderpump Rules scandal going on. I heard they hit like 1.8 last week, which is crazy.
Wow.
But listen, on a bad week, you have like Below Deck hitting like 1.2 million viewers, which is crazy. It's
a good show.
So,
it's a good show.
It's a good show.
A lot of people, a lot of different people.
Than who would normally, like, let's say, not watch Vanderpump Rules might watch Below Deck, and especially Below Deck Sailing. I watch Vanderpump.
I was gonna say, what the hell are you raising your hand?
What the fuck am I talking about? No, but with Below Deck Sailing, we have our crew that we're very familiar with. We have Captain Glenn and Daisy and Gary and Colin, who have been there from the beginning, and we have so much to talk about tonight with this episode. But before we get started, Josh, I asked people to rate this episode in the poll in the live chat, giving us what we thought it was, a 4, 3, 2, 1 sales. What would you give it? Because I don't know. Like, if you would give it 4 sales, 3 sales, 2 sales, 1 sale, or maybe 1 through 10, what would you give it? And live chat, same question.
Yeah.
Same question.
So we can go over the poll in a sec, but before we look at what everyone else is saying, let's go with the correct answer. No, this is one of those where I'm definitely reserving my 4 sales, because this wasn't a bad episode. But if this is 4 sales, then what do I give something that blows us out of the water? You know what I mean? So we got to reserve that one. I got to hold back. This one, I gave myself 3. I gave it 3. It was an entertaining episode. It was a good episode.
Okay.
What did you give it? I have a feeling maybe you gave it a 2.
No, probably a 3. I have to say the first 18 minutes of this episode were completely boring to me. I was like, when is anything going to move? When is anything going to happen? I'm over like the cast at this point. I want to see what we're dealing with. And the saving grace this whole season so far, we're 7 episodes in, has honestly been Colin, right? Colin is your resident Captain Sean on Below Deck Sailing, explaining what's wrong with the boat, how we're going to fix the boat, and how we're going to continue. And for him, I will give it like a 3 sales, but like an 8, 7.5, 8.
Yeah. It wasn't a bad episode. I'll say this though, in preparation for this show, Natalie and I were talking during dinner tonight, and I really try to hold back on like saying too much because I want when I actually say stuff to be here on the show, Sure. Natalie started sharing some stuff, and she said, she's like, first of all, she really looks forward to watching it every week. She's like, oh, you got Below Deck? You got to watch your show, Josh. And she's like, she's excited because she wants to watch it. But
I love that.
She was saying, she said, I really like this cast. She said, everyone on here is entertaining. Everyone has an interesting personality. And I said, yeah, you know what? When come to think of it, there's no single person in this cast that is forgotten, or you know what I mean? Like, if any cast member I can bring up, Lucy, Alex, Chase, Mads, Daisy, Alicia, of course, Gary, Colin, Glenn, like every single person has had their moment here or there. They contribute to the story. There's something there. We've seen some cast members where they're just completely forgotten in the edit,
Yeah, like in Evangelina, I have to agree with you in a little bit, but at the same time, Tom and Ashley were like, wasn't Ashley fired too? I can't remember. But like Tom and Ashley were memorable for a minute, but we haven't gotten through the season yet. So I don't want to like give them that, like, we don't know like where they'll go, but it is a very subtle newbie cast. And so Evangelina, I have to agree with you. They're very subtle. It's very easy. Everything seems to be sailing right, except the actual sailing boat, which we're
Yeah.
having issues with, right? But
So yeah, we started the season with the whole engine being completely flooded and being told this is going to be a 2-week minimum job. Colin worked his miracle and got it working at least to minimal capacity so they can do some charters here and have a season. And then all of a sudden this week there's smoke billowing out the back with guests. I don't know, it's their first hour, I think, within their first hour of being on board.
right, yeah.
There's smoke billowing out the back, and it turns out it was a completely unrelated, just kind of freak thing that these guys had a second catastrophic breakdown on the engine, supposedly completely unrelated to the original thing. So
Which is crazy to me because, I want to go back to a story that Adrienne Gang from, of course, season 1 of Below Deck, she gave a lot of great advice to Captain Carey, who stepped into Below Deck Adventure and is now going to be our new captain on Below Deck season 11. And saying, like, make sure you get there early. Production likes to take you for some sidelines and stuff like that. Captain Carey actually got early to Norway, where they were filming Below Deck Adventure, and took the yacht out. And there were a lot of issues with the yacht, and production probably would have loved those issues to be happening, which I think we're seeing a lot of right now. But when you have someone like Colin, and guys, big shout out to his YouTube channel, Parlay Revival, phenomenal YouTube channel to watch. He's taking this catamaran that he rebuilt. He's sailing it from Mexico to French Polynesia. It's amazing. If there was someone I wanted to be stuck on a boat with that didn't work, it would be Colin, because he always finds an answer on how to fix it. But there are a lot of problems on this boat, and it leaves me confused on what the owners are doing to fix these before the charter season.
Well, and we're walking that fine balance of, yes, it creates good television and good drama, but at a certain point, if it's unfixable, or like this week, they had to get the whole diesel. We just looked it up.
The C30 turbo something or another.
Oh, diesel turbo.
Yes.
Yeah.
C30 turbo.
We just looked it up now. We forgot it. But
yeah, the cool looking thing.
This week they had to get a completely new one. And if they wouldn't have got it, it made great for television. But the reality is there was a worldwide shortage of parts. We know this because of COVID and stuff, and the supply chains being hurt back when they filmed this. If they didn't get that part, the season is done. You know what I mean? And so it's like, thank goodness it's not, and we have a season, but it could have been the show had to start over, maybe like them struggle to find another yacht or something and completely start refilming, or who knows what they would have had to done,
I mean, Below Deck Sailing and Below Deck in general does a really good job. Production does a really good job of taking us through this roller coaster of emotions, right? Like I get 18 minutes into this latest episode we just watched, episode 7, and I'm bored out of my mind. And then all of a sudden something happens, and you have this Jaws-esque music mixed with Pirates of the Caribbean music. It's like, dun, dun, dun. What's going to happen with the engine? And how are we going to fix this for the charter season to continue? And I'm like, I don't know. And I'm so invested. Like, I'm watching this, like, I know what's going to happen. It's going to be fine because we still have 7 more episodes to get through, So
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, it's going to be fine. But then I'm like, wait, is it? What's going on? They do a really good job at that. Production does a really, really good job of making us think for a second, but just for a second.
Yeah.
Just for a second.
Thank goodness that's what they had to work with.
Thank goodness. But really what we have to talk about is the whole Daisy, Gary, Colin situation, which Bravo is all about. Who cares about the yacht? Who cares about the engine? Let's get into talking about Daisy.
Hearts are broken, possibly, and they need new parts ordered.
Hey, hearts are broken and quickly fixed. on Below Deck.
We were teased that there's gonna Colin's gonna fix another broken part next season or next
Lord have
episode.
mercy. Lord have mercy. At least we're finally getting it. You know, we've
Okay.
been taunted that this is going to happen. Like, oh, Daisy and Colin. Like, oh my gosh, Daisy and Gary, which we're kind of over, but at the same time, we're kind of invested in their future. You know, like.
Jason, we're both Office fans, right?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Is Gary and Daisy the Jim and Pam of Below Deck? Are they ultimately going to be together? Is that what
it feels like that?
It does. No, now for those of you guys who may not like follow it, like us lunatics who do a show every week about Below Deck, the last season of Below Deck Sailing, when they did a reunion show, both Gary and Daisy were at some apartment or hotel. You didn't know where. They were at some location. They were talking, and you thought, oh, okay, you didn't think much of it. And then at some point, Gary, to be funny, left his screen, ran around the corner, and came running in behind Daisy. It turns out they were at Daisy's house, and he was staying with her.
Absolutely.
And it was like, they were alluding to like, oh, we're together sort of thing, or we're at least spending this break together. And so they definitely have history. And I thought this episode was really interesting because Gary kind of summed it up best. Because for one, he pointed out she always blocks him. Every season we've seen when he hooks up with another girl on her crew, she starts finding ways to separate them and end up block, which I'd forgotten about that.
And I quickly remembered though.
Yeah, as soon as and they even showed us like in the edit, they showed us some of those moments, and I was like, oh yeah. And then he said it best. He's like, Daisy doesn't want to be with me, but she doesn't want me to be with anybody. And I was like, that's so true. Like,
and that is when someone really likes you. That is exactly what happens. Okay, so we open this episode with Daisy complaining to Gary about Colin calling her out at the tip meeting, saying that like, you know, we all need to do better. I don't think that's what he meant. I think he really did mean like we all need to like step it up a little bit, which is so funny coming from Colin, because Colin is the only one really like keeping this together. Like we're only making money because Colin is actually
like literally
equipped to do his job, right? So
Jason, these are some good comments right now from our friends.
Yes.
Angelina wrote, Gary and Daisy feel overproduced. Daisy and Colin feels natural. I kind of think Daisy and Gary feels more natural, but
I kind of feel like that's what we're gonna get at the end of the day. But
this one's interesting from Jen. Gary is still salty over Daisy's makeout with Alex. He's gonna freak out over Colin. I agree. As much as Gary plays it cool, and he played it cool with the whole Alex thing, I think he's gonna lose it when it comes to Colin. I mean, this is like
I agree. 100%.
They have such a history, all three of them. I've always liked Colin and Daisy. Always liked Gary until this season. He just comes off as a real jerk. He's not shining this season. I will agree with you, Donna.
I don't think he shined any season. I think what he's good at is doing his job. And he's always been this kind of like person on the side. Like he's a work hard, play hard guy. You know, he's good at his job. He knows the boat. And that's a saving grace on the show. Like that's how I feel anyways. That's how it's always been for me.
We got to share this one only because anytime someone agrees with me, it has to go on the screen.
Oh, of course. Absolutely.
Judy says that's exactly what I thought, Josh. I thought they were together. And I think Judy's referring to back when I said Daisy and Gary like were appearing together and stuff at her place. So,
I mean, listen, Colin in the moment of being in the tip meeting and kind of, I don't think he was necessarily calling Daisy out, but I do have to say, since the boat has been struggling and Colin has been working to really make this work, I can understand maybe his kind of being frustrated with like other things not going well. Like there has been times the interior crew has like not really been on top of it. We saw a mediocre kind of beach setup last episode. We've seen like people have been asking for the interior crew or for timing in the kitchen to come off better. I think that he wasn't necessarily pointing out one person. You know,
there's a time and place for every comment, though. She was obviously on the verge of being emotional. Probably not the best time to say that. I get where he was coming from. I also get where she's coming from. Sometimes when someone's on the edge like that, maybe hold back and make that point a little bit later. You know what I mean? Like, yes, he was right in saying, hey guys, it's important we talk about this stuff so we can be better and blah, 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 blah. But sometimes it's like, yeah, I know that, but right now I feel like crap. So why do you like, can we just talk about it in 10 minutes when I calm down? Or
Right. No, I get that too. All right, so let's move on a little bit in the episode. The crew dinner looked nice. You know, always with a crew dinner, we can expect some kind of drama or some kind of thing to happen. Guys, 115 in the room. Hit that like button if you haven't done so already. It helps us out tremendously. And leave us your thoughts in the comments below on this episode of Below Deck Sailing Yacht. But of course, you know, always we have some kind of issue that transpires in any of these crew outings, crew dinners. But Alex is flirting with Mads, and we're getting Gary's side eye a little bit. You know, we're like getting his like, what's up with that? But I did say this, Josh. I said when we had this crew come aboard, we had Chase and Alex, and then, you know, Colin already there working on the engine and stuff like that. I said when he comes back, there's going to be this kind of like alpha male dominance situation where Gary feels like he needs to come in and dominate his other crew members when it comes to the ladies. And I think we're seeing this. You know, Alex even says that he would step back from going after Mads.
He does keep stepping back.
He gets too drunk to actually like make a move on Mads. Let's be honest. But then he does step back because Gary is the boss. You know, I mean, does that mean that Gary gets his first pick because he's the boss? Like, here's that alpha male kind of thing coming in where he feels like he needs to be like dominant over his, you know, subordinates.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of weird dynamics there. I mean, let's face it, Mads and Alex genuinely like each other. He gets too drunk. He wanders off because he defers to Gary. And then Gary, like, kind of just steamrolls in and takes over when, you know, she's drunk and horny and not really in a place to say no. Kind of, I don't know. To me, it's kind of creepy. The only time he's able to really make a move on her is when she's drunk. And I mean, I guess she's consenting because afterwards she doesn't say like, you know, she jokes around like, oh, I made a mistake last night. But I guess she's, you know, into it enough, but I don't know. It's just creepy to me.
I don't know. It's like a thing of convenience, and it creeps me out with Gary, but also creeps me out with Mads that she's willing to just like let Gary have that kind of participation with her. You know what I mean?
And I'm the kind of guy where if I was out to dinner and I saw the girl I liked was flirting with another dude all dinner, I would not then try to like hook up with her afterward. I don't know. I don't know. To each their own, I guess. Who am I to judge? I'm a time traveler from 100 years ago, so I have different standards and different thoughts about love.
I mean, Gary is the typical guy who will never grow. He's like, he has that Peter Pan syndrome. Thank God he is so good at his job and he knows that boat so well, and he's able to make quick decisions and good moves, just like Colin, to keep it running, because otherwise I think we would all lose respect for him really, really quickly.
Well, I'll say this. I still wouldn't want a below deck without him, Daisy, Colin, and Glenn. You know what I mean? Like
what? No, 100%. I mean, it's just so integrated into our minds at this point. But can we help Gary out really quick? Can we kind of help Gary? I mean, okay, let me ask you a question. Let me ask the live chat if they even want to answer this. Or, you know, guys, if you're watching this on the replay or you're listening to this on the podcast later, by the way, thank you for listening to this on our podcast on Up and Adam on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your shows. All the best of the best is there all week. But what does hookup mean, Josh? Because, like, in my mind, hooking up is a lot more than what Gary and Mads have been doing, and also what Gary has been kind of like relaying to other people, like Daisy. Yeah, she like, did you hook up last night? He's like, yeah, I did. What'd you do? Hold her hand and walk her to her room? That's not called hooking up. You know?
Well, we've seen more than holding hands and walking her to her room. I don't know. I'm the wrong guy to ask, Jason. Like I said,
I feel like it's just
okay.
I
Chat,
feel like it's
you
the in
guys,
between.
the chat needs to chime in here. Help me out.
Is it first base, second base, third, or a home run?
But
Because
we
the
can't
home
even
run,
say that, Jason, because first base now, second base, third base are bases that weren't even around 20 years ago. Now it's like, good Lord, I think we start on home plate as well a lot of times. So
I mean, yeah, today's generation and culture is very different than what we grew up in. That is very true.
yeah.
All right, well, to get into some brighter notes, we have our returning charter guests coming back, which I think is fun because everyone's face lit up during the preference sheet meeting that these guests were coming back and all they want to do is have fun. Unfortunately, we're stuck with this. So,
Yeah, can we take a step back and just say these are great guests? And so they were so much fun last year. It's fun to have them back. I think not only the crew, during the preference meeting, but the viewers were also excited to see it was, that this fun family coming back, this fun group. So such a bummer for them to have like, and I love too that Glenn, like when they first came on board, he's like, you guys already know the boat. So we can skip the tour if you guys want to get out there and get sailing. And
let's
like,
go.
let's
yeah.
do this. And so
And then it's like,
yeah, as soon as they get out there, they start charging out. And then it was like, smoke on the water. Here we go. And I just felt so bad for them. Because if any guest deserved to have a great 100% 24-hour a day good time, it's these guys. And so, but to their credit, they took it in stride. They had great attitudes the whole time. They acted how I would hope I would act in that situation, which is still enjoying the fact that, well, we might be stopped and anchored, but we're in a beautiful location on a super yacht and we're having amazing meals cooked for us. They're still
how can you argue with
half
that?
full, it doesn't have to be half empty. And
how can you argue with that?
And they had great attitudes and we're still having a good time. And so I don't know. To me, that's like, I wish more people took that attitude these days. Like
No, 100%. And I'm glad that everything came, it kind of got cleared up a lot faster. Now, next week, guys, this week, Sean will not be joining us because we got to keep it a little short tonight. It's my fault. I apologize. But something I want to ask him next week is we had this problem with this what is the C30 turbo
diesel
thing.
turbo.
Diesel turbo twisty little tiny thing, right? And then they couldn't find it after Captain Glenn called like 8 people. He finally found someone in Amsterdam who had one, and then that part had to get there overnight. And I want to ask him, like, they didn't FedEx it, obviously, or maybe they did FedEx it. I have no idea. Did someone actually like get on a plane and like take it there? Like, is that how far they go to like?
Well, it was coming
done?
from Scandinavia, I think Sweden or something. So it had to go overnight on a plane, and then it landed, and someone then took it on a boat and jetted out to them. So they acted quick. It's astounding that they found that part.
Crazy. I mean, after 8 people that you're calling, but like we talked about earlier, there's like from the pandemic and stuff, like a lot of things slowed down, especially when it comes to like parts and stuff like that. But it got fixed. They were able to sail, which is great. And again, this is what production is so good at, taking us along for the ride. They're sitting here like, dun, dun, dun. What's going to happen? And what's, and everything like that. And it was so funny. Like production had me rolling. And usually I can read straight through production when it comes to this like stuff they do. But like, I felt like there was an extra added soundtrack, like just, I was like, wow, I'm in this. Like, this is great. But you made me bored for the first 18 minutes. Like that really did happen. Cause I looked at the clock at 18 minutes and I was like, this is really boring. You're losing me.
And by the way, I missed it. It already passed us, but they commented, the Naughty Yachties mentioned the big Jim flag that they flew for Jim.
Why don't I have a picture of that tonight?
You should have had a photo of that. That was hilarious.
We would have gotten demonetized so quickly. I'm telling you, like, it wasn't that cute. It was enough to make everyone laugh, but I would probably not show that on here. Okay, but getting to the better news, Colin and Daisy do clear the air, which I'm really happy that they did, because I feel like
they're good enough friends. It was gonna be cleared anyways. I mean,
well, like Daisy said, like if Gary and her argue, eventually they get over it. Eventually it comes to like fruition that they like get along again and whatever. But then with Colin, I think Colin is just like that kind of person who doesn't have time for BS. He really doesn't. It's like, I have to fix this. I have to do this. I said this because I mean that. He even said at the dinner, like, Daisy is so mad and she's just wasting her energy because why?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
they're family. It's always going to come around. They're sister and brother who are going to make out next episode.
Not how many sisters and brothers do we have making out here? We have like Gary and Daisy, and we have Colin and Daisy. It's driving me nuts. Okay, I do want to say something really quick. First of all, when the charter guest told Captain Glenn, or Captain Glenn asked the charter guest, what does boat mean? Break out another 1,000. That is like typical talk here in Florida, because we have uncles and aunts and family who have boats, and literally it goes well for like a month. And then you literally throw in $1,000, $800, $600 to fix this.
It reminds me of when I used to own a horse too. One of the people at the stables had a license plate frame that said "Owning a horse is poverty," and I was like, yes.
Compared to this, absolutely. I don't know how the owners of the Parsifal 3 are going to keep up. But I love, and Josh, I wanted to ask you about this, how Colin explains everything that's going on with the engine, how he's going to fix it, how he's going to make it work. I feel like we have our own like Captain Sean on Below Deck Sailing.
Well, and part of that, I think, is the production crew saying, explain to the audience what is happening so they understand, in layman's terms. And so I think a lot of that he's being coached to respond to, which is fine. They should be coaching him to do that. Clarify this thing. And, for you guys who don't know, when they go to do these confessionals, they will sit with them for an hour or two and talk through a bunch of points. And the person off camera will have a clipboard of like, here's what we need to cover off on. We need to get Gary's thoughts on these. We need to get Colin's thoughts on these. When it comes time to these breakdowns on the boat, I guarantee there is hey, explain to the audience clearly what is happening in a very simple way and stuff. Now, he does a great job. Like, he's very good at articulating to the point where he doesn't take us through how an engine works and blah, 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 but he explains enough to where we get what's happening. We get enough of it to keep up, No,
100%. I truly enjoy it, because this is the reason we watch Below Deck Sailing. And I feel like other franchises, we never get to get into the engine room or find out what's actually happening there or happening in there, So the fact that we get to see it with him, and he's the only person working in that engine room, and he's explaining what's going on, it makes it so much more interesting. We're not focused on like, Jake's behind or the drama before, or the drama with like this person and this person. We're focused on like, how are we going to get this boat sailing? I do want to jump into, I want to do a little check-in with Elisha. I think she's doing amazing. I think she's such a great chef to have on after Chef Marcos, who kind of left us with no words last season. He was so good that it's like, where do you go from here? And for Elisha to step in, I feel like she's doing a great job so far. And as Gary noted, she's taking his notes.
Yep.
Daisy is taking his notes and moving on. But how do we feel about Elisha? And do you think we're going to get more? I don't know. I feel like she's just kind of like doing her thing. Do you think that she's going to be more involved with cast drama moving forward?
She doesn't strike me as the personality type. It's like she does. She kind of reminds me. She's like the girl Colin. Like, she's really good at her job. Now this season, Colin's stepping into the drama more. But in the past, he's always been kind of like I'm present, I'm here, but now it's getting weird. I'm going to bed. And I feel like Alicia's like that, where she's like, I'm present, I'm here, but I'm not getting that into the weeds with you guys. Like, she dips out when things get weird. She does stay and have fun at the pool and stuff and in the hot tub, but then I don't know, she's really good at like finding the line. And
I find like a lot of them are good at finding the line this season so far. Like they're like,
maybe
we're
too
gonna
many of them.
besides wait, hold on. Let me see if I can bring up a picture from like the very first episode that we got of this. I feel like they've all have found a good line and not
Well,
getting too
Lucy is someone who like she doesn't seem to be clicking with Chase or Alex. I thought she was also going to be kind of a little bit of a wild one, and she's not turning out to be that wild. So really, we only got Mads, sometimes Daisy, but then it's
and sometimes the other ones like I like we saw a lot of debauchery and raunchiness like very early on. And now I feel like we're just getting very light, which is not such a bad thing for Below Deck.
it's
This is
not
not
bad,
such a
but
bad thing.
it does start to get a little boring, right? Like as
Is
much
this
as we
boring? Chase and Lucy trying to teach a yoga class. Chase trying to just breathe, take it in. You're about to get drunk and have a crazy day on the yacht and play in the water. What
I
kind
gotta
of
hand it to him
fucking yoga
though.
class is this?
I gotta hand it to him. I think he did a good job. That whole fake it till you make it thing. He said, like, I just put a list of poses on my phone real quick, and he went out there and he was kind of faking a yoga class for the guests. I appreciate what he was doing. He obviously is not a yoga instructor, but he was like, he was leading them through some stuff. They're not, they're not yogis, so they didn't really know and or care. They started laughing a little, which I thought was funny. But this was these are the right guests that they're always going to err on the funny side, the happy side. They're always going to have a good time. So
Absolutely. And I feel like Lucy was the one kind of helping out here. It's like we all wanted to laugh. Lucy is doing it for you. It's just part of the experience. And it's those little moments that they create on the charter are something that, will be remembered. Now, I want to move into something else too. We're watching Alex, who is a captain, usually when he's home in Fort Lauderdale, and he does like small day charters and stuff. And he was saying that he feels like cleaning on a big super yacht is counterproductive. And it's kind of, like I'm doing things, I'm cleaning things that can be cleaned later and blah, blah, blah. But then Chase wakes up and is stuck with having to do his dirty work, no pun intended. How do you think this is going to go? Because when it was seen by Gary and by Captain Glenn, people are like, this should have been done. And Chase is like, yeah, hey, I know, but can I, let me have the opportunity to go tell Alex, like, hey, dude, like, you're not doing this right.
yeah, but
It
that's
might
not
be
his
better.
role. That's not his job.
It's not his job. And also we want to see the drama that will transpire after this gets.
Well, it should be a manager to go do it. You don't tell coworkers to go take care of each other. Like, hey, go settle her hash. She needs to be working harder. No. Look, it was odd because they show him, or at least the way it's edited, he's working all night long. Like you see him working. And then the sun comes up and you're like, this looks like crap. Like, were you just half-assing stuff? Obviously he was. And his whole thing was like, this is stupid. We're cleaning. And then we just turn around and clean it again. It's like, yeah, welcome to the open seas, bro. Like there's constantly going to be moisture hitting this boat. And you are
Parseval 3 is not a 30-foot boat you're taking out for a day charter. You know what I mean? This is like a different beast. So
and
it's
a multi-million-dollar thing that you are fighting salt water to stay pristine. And so, yeah, you're going to have to clean it all the time. Guess what, though? It's your job. You know what I mean?
Oh my
like,
God. Yeah.
I
feel like everyone forgets this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I feel like people forget too? Is I love.
No one was knocked on the head and dragged onto the ship and forced
to
work. You know what I mean?
No, and you're getting tipped, dude. Like you're getting paid. And what do you sleep during the day? You get to stay up all night and like maybe sweep a little bit. Not well, obviously. Do a few push-ups, to have a nap on the bridge. Like, this isn't rocket fucking science, you know? But
Yeah.
I love going into things that people forget. I love no matter how many times, Josh, Daisy has sailed, no matter how many times that we have seen her on the past 3 seasons sail, she reacts like, "Holy sh! Oh my god, we're sailing!" And it's like, "Yeah, girl, don't you know
Every
this?
time the
It's been
ship
3
keels,
seasons."
she acts like it's the first time she's ever seen the boat turn sideways.
Right.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. For those of you guys who didn't see, they did get to sail, and the whole boat, they really keeled hard to where the one side of the windows were like splashing in the water. They were like almost basically on their side.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like, yeah, that sucks to have to work in that, and that's tough, and you might have to put down the special, pins to close all of the cabinets and stuff, but you know it's coming. Captain Glenn is announcing they're sailing. Run around and start closing things and getting stuff off counters.
It's crazy to me. I'm like, she reacts like, "Oh my god, a trash can fell over. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, this fell over." I'm like, how many times have you been on, specifically, it's not like you've been changing boats. You haven't been changing yachts to like move to this one, and then like you don't know where things are, where things should be put away, or where things should be done. You're on the same boat you've been on for however long. It's so funny to me. I do have to say I'm really enjoying this season, and Below Deck Sailing is delivering. But I want to know how you guys feel as far as like how the season is going. I've heard mixed. I read mixed on Twitter. I don't dive into
Yeah.
Reddit anymore because that's just like trash. But like
Well,
I hear mixed.
I keep my finger on the pulse of the Twitter.
I've heard. Yes. So I've heard just from
And-
you, but I've
and
heard.
it definitely is all over the boat. Some people do really, I think it goes down to some people just genuinely enjoy this crew, like sailing. Some people are just in it for the main Below Deck, and they come back we even see it in our views, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. When we
and
talk about Below Deck Sailing, it's a little bit of a dip.
yep, we expect it, but yeah, well, first of all, I think next episode is going to be fun. We have the fun people, they're sailing, they're going to do their talent show night, which I think is going to be great vibes. They're probably going to tip well, which is going to lead us into a fun night out with the cast. So we could, and obviously we've been teased with Colin and Daisy are going to hook up. Who knows what else is going to happen? I think next episode is going to be definitely one of the rowdier, more fun episodes. I'm expecting that. What about you?
I'm ready for it. I feel like we've had a steady season of a lot of like things we don't normally see on Below Deck. Like we don't normally see a lot of engineering issues that the crew itself needs to figure out. And this is interesting to watch. It separates Below Deck Sailing from a Below Deck or Below Deck Med or Down Under or Adventure. We're watching something different, which I think makes it fun. And like we've said before, we have this cast who is like family, they've been the same since the beginning. Josh, I do wanted to end off tonight before we talk about like anything else or how excited we are for next episode, because we are, and we just brought that up. But Captain Sandy has a podcast with her partner, Leah. It's a great podcast, guys. Huge fan of Captain Sandy. By the way, we will be having some special guests on Anchor Watch coming up, which I'm really excited about. But Captain Sandy recently answered a fan question where they asked her about how she treated Fraser during the season. And she said, there's no, really right way to do it, but she needs to manage, she said a whole bunch of things about how she should manage the crew and how sometimes she's hearing a lot of talk coming from, the crew and she just got tired of it. And gave a really good answer on our podcast. You guys have to go listen to it. It's on the latest episode. But then, Josh, it's so funny because you said something that was so interesting when we were covering Below Deck. And you said, sometimes it's like how Sandy dealt with Rachel. Like sometimes they need to hear things and then it will take time for them to understand what their leader is trying to say. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, Captain Sandy, you were so hard on Fraser." And then Fraser on social media, on Twitter, did go after Captain Sandy and say, "This is one of the worst experiences I had from a captain." Now we see him changing his tune down here on the comments saying, agreed. You taught me a very valuable lesson, Captain Sandy, and I am eternally grateful. So I thought that was interesting because sometimes it does take time. And even you said this, Josh, when we were talking and covering Below Deck, that sometimes you're not going to always agree with the person above you or your leader, but then you understand what the lesson was, or maybe not even the lesson, but you understand their role and your role more.
Well, and also, Jason, you and I both know this because we've gone through this in our personal lives and we've talked about it with each other. Sometimes when we hear the things we need to hear the most, it stings the most when we first hear it. But if we're mature enough to take a little time, let it sink in, and be honest with ourselves, that sometimes is the thing that helps us grow the most and ultimately puts us in a better place. And I know people feel differently, but some people do agree with me. I actually think Captain Sandy did Fraser a huge favor in how she worked with him. And I think by how he's responded publicly, I think he would agree. And by how he performed the second half of the season,
100%.
I think he would agree, you know?
And I love, what I have to admire about Captain Sandy, because I've not always been a huge fan of hers, but I'm actually an extremely big fan of hers now. Listening to her podcast, reading parts of her book, which I'm still getting through on top of like many other books that I'm trying to go through at the same time to keep up. But she doesn't hold back on who she is and the positions she stands in when she's making these decisions. And I really admire that about her. So I think that is something very interesting, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait because I don't know if we're getting Med next or the second season of Below Deck Down Under on Bravo. I don't know which one is coming first. I would assume Med.
And it's interesting. You and I usually get some kind of like word through the grapevine of what's coming, especially at this point in the season. I'm wondering, are they going to take a few weeks off with the summer? Normally don't. Normally we get like 2 weeks pause and then they roll into the next Below Deck franchise. So,
well, we know what Below Deck Adventure is not returning, as per Bravo's post on what is returning in the 2023-2024 season. But we have Below Deck Down Under has already filmed season 2 a while ago. Below Deck Med, I think, finished filming before BravoCon. Like,
they're like a year ago.
Yeah, that season's just like waiting to come out. But so did Below Deck Down Under season 2. So we're sitting here waiting for all these franchises to like be released. So I'm very curious on what we're gonna get moving forward with Below Deck. But I'm really excited. I'm happy with the captains that we have: Captain Carrie, Captain Jason, Captain Sandy, Captain Glenn. Phenomenal. Captain Lee for doing literally 10 seasons of Below Deck and like kind of setting us up for success for the rest of them. It's phenomenal.
Hey, Jason, real quick, BravoCon, have tickets? Are people able to buy tickets yet? I'm curious. Okay, I was curious if any of the Naughty Yachties are going. I assume there's going to be some from, especially viewers of Up and Adam. There has to be a good.
Oh, I would assume so. I would hope so. And I would hope you're going to be wearing some of this awesome Anchor Watch merch that we have. I'm wearing actually someone else's merch that I am in charge of coming soon in this next week. But yes, there will be for sure. I'm so excited for BravoCon, by the way. So, the BravoCon Vegas, like how does it get any better?
Well, and you guys are planning some good stuff there. So
and you might be there.
I might be.
Who
there.
knows?
So,
we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. I just got back from Vegas actually. So
I know you were kind of getting BravoCon ready for all of us.
Well,
doing your little sweep, your check.
My wife was born and raised there, and I lived there for 5 or 6 years when I was performing there. So we used this as an opportunity.
We met there.
Yeah, our first time we met was in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
and we used this as an opportunity to take the kids to see family, and also, Jason and Adam had me go to a couple meetings for them and stuff. But I think it's gonna be exciting. You guys have a lot of cool stuff planned. I'm excited for this year. The upcoming year is gonna be very exciting. The fall, you guys are hitting the ground running. So
Yes, no, I can't wait. And Josh, I just want to thank you for doing Anchor Watch with us every week. This has been
it's
literally
fun.
so fun. I don't think we haven't missed a week in such a long time. I think we take like a week or two off. But going back to your question about BravoCon tickets, there has been a lot of talk on the Housewives shows where they're referencing BravoCon. They're like, remember at BravoCon this happened, and you usually don't hear that on the shows, but you're starting to hear that on like Real Housewives of Atlanta. It was just mentioned. Another show was just mentioned. So I was kind of thinking like tickets must be going out. That there must be an announcement coming up. But now Andy Cohen is taking 2 weeks off of Watch What Happens Live, and I would assume they would announce that on his show. So at least we have 2 weeks to not even think about that because he will be the one to announce it.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone. A lot of you hit the like. Please, if you haven't yet, it's super simple. Just tap the like button. It helps so much for Adam's channel. Puts us in the algorithm, blah, 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 some kind of weird math. But surprisingly, it does really. It is. And your guys' engagement, like you guys, you're chatting and everything, the way you guys engage with us, that also helps because it shows YouTube like, oh, this is something people are having fun with. And so then it helps push it. So thank you guys, because that's our way of saying thank you to Adam too, is like
Absolutely
bring, hopefully some new viewers. So
some new viewers and to talk about something other than Housewives. I understand the people who don't watch that but watch Below Deck. We appreciate you guys. Hit that like button. Let us know. The other thing we love to do is go back to the comments and answer you guys. So please, sometimes at 11 p.m. we don't always have the viewers, but we always have the replay crew. So leave your comments below. We can't wait to chat with you, and we will see you guys all next week. Have a good night, Josh.
Good night.